Good day. As the lesson had passed, we are now heading into the part 2, which is about monetary policy. Our group's topic is measuring money supply. Our leader, Timothy Bote, will be discussing the first two topics.
Maraming salamat, Kumari Angelica, sa pagpapakilala sa akin. Ayan, at ngayon, umpisahan na natin ang ating talakayan na uumpisahan sa money supply. Before we start sa money supply, let's define muna what is money. Sa mga nakakapanood nito ngayon, ayan, bibigyan ko kayo ng 15 seconds to define what is money. Paunahan lamang yan, I-chat nyo sa akin once na napanood nyo na, i-chat nyo kaagad kung sino una makakapanood, kung tama ba kayo, at makakatanggap kayo ng 50 pesos GCash. Okay, time's up. Money. Let's define now money. Money is a medium of exchange, and more generally, any medium that can be used for the exchange of goods and services. Medium of exchange, di ba? Yan yung pinaka-simpleng definition ng money sa panahon natin ngayon. Yan yung ginagamit natin sa pagpapalitan, di ba? Bibili ka ng isang bagay, makipagpalitan ka ng isang bagay, di ba? Bibili ka. Yan yung halos ginagamit natin, pera. Di ba? Money, yan ang halos. Maraming pera, di ba? Dito sa Pilipinas, peso. In other country, dollars. In Europe, mga euro or pounds, di ba? Yung mga ganyang bagay ba? Ngayon, since na-define na natin ang money, let's go to money supply. Money supply. The money supply is all the currency and other liquid instrument in a country's economy on the day measured. The money supply roughly includes both cash and deposits that can be used almost as easily as cash. Di ba? Money supply, sabi nga dito, is all the currency and the other liquid instrument in a country economy, di ba? Yan yung mga mini-measure natin. Yan yung tinitignan natin kung tama pa ba yung money supply, yung supply natin dito sa bansa natin. Di ba? Katulad dito sa Pilipinas. Tama pa ba yung supply ng pera natin? Tama pa ba ang gold reserves natin? Di ba? Yung mga ganyang talakayan ba? Yung mga ganyang definition. Di ba? Kung titignan natin. So, bigyan pa natin ng tignan pa natin ng ibang definition. The total amount of money circulating in an economy is called money supply. And its size is generally tracked and reported publicly by each country's central bank or government. Di ba? Nakikita naman natin ngayon kung tama pa ba ang money supply natin or hindi na. Di ba? Every month, you can search on Google, di ba? On Yahoo, on Bing, kung kamusta nga ba ang money supply ng Pilipinas. And that's what nire-report din syempre, di ba? Madami tayong source ngayon. Especially in 21st century, di ba? Technology. Isang pindot mo lang, nandyan na. Diba? Pabalikan natin muna yung sinabi natin kanina. The total amount of money circulating in an economy is the money supply. Yun yung tinatawag natin. Diba? Kung ano yung mga pinapaikot natin ngayon, kung gaano kadami ba yung umiikot na pera dito sa Pilipinas, sa ating bansa, yan yung money supply na tinatawag. Diba? Now, let's talk about the broad money. Broad money is a category for measuring the amount of money circulating in an economy. It is defined as the most inclusive method of calculating a given country's money supply and includes narrow money, along with other assets that can be easily converted into cash to buy goods and services. So basically, pag-uusapan natin, ano ba ang broad money, Broad money, sabi nga, is a category, for measuring the amount ng umiikot na pera dito sa ekonomiya natin sa bansa. Ngayong pandemic, nagkaroon ng pandemic, ngayon 2021, let's check, kamusta na nga ba yung umiikot na pera natin. Patay ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas, di ba? Walang trabaho, yung iba, napasara ang negosyo, di ba? Dahil pandemya. Sapat nga ba yung umiikot na pera natin ngayon? Kamusta nga ba yung umiikot na pera dito sa ating bansa, di ba? And also, it is defined as the most inclusive method of calculating the money supplies and includes the narrow money. So, narrow money, bagong dinig lang natin, di ba? Ano nga ba yung narrow money? Mamaya, tingnan natin kung ano ba yung narrow money. So, yun yun. Ito yung pag-measure, no? Hindi lamang pagdating sa pera natin, di ba? Is it converted? Yan yung tinitingnan natin dito sa broad money. Dito yung tinitingnan na natin kung ayos pa ba, di ba? So, next na natin, yung narinig natin kanina, is the narrow money. Narrow money is a category of money supplies that includes all physical money such as coins and currency, demand deposits, and other liquid assets held by the central banks. Diba? Narinig na natin, ano ba yung central banks natin, diba? Ayan. So, isa din category nga ang narrow money, no? Na kung saan, ito naman ay tinitignan na yung mga physical money natin. The coins na i-release, yung nakuha na natin, di ba? The currency, ayan, yung mga papel, yung mga perang papel, di ba, kung tawagin natin. Demand deposits, ayan. And also, sabi nga dito, liquid assets. Ano pa ba yung mga liquid assets? Basta ang liquid assets, lagi natin tatandaan, sabi nga, di ba, mga liquid, mga current assets, kung kumbaga, di ba, yung mga liquid, yung mga kwan, na in a 1 year, di ba, yung makukuha mo lang in 1 year, kumbaga, yung kaya mong ubusin in 1 year, di ba? Yan yung mga kwan, like, mga tawag ito, treasury bills, siguro, ayan, mapapasok natin siya, di ba, as the liquid assets din. Ayan. So, gano'n lang siya. Ang narrow money, no, it's a category of money supply that includes physical money. Samantalang, si broad money, siya naman yung mini-measure niya, yung nag-circulate na pera sa ekonomiya natin. Diba? So, yun. Next, eto na. Dito na talaga tayo mag-focus ngayon. The multiplier effect. The money supply multiplier effect. No? Let's now talk about the money supply multiplier effect. The multiplier effect refers to the proportional amount of increase and decrease in final income that results from an injection or withdrawal of spending. Diba? Tinitignan to. Dito na natin titignan kung yung amount ba, tumataas ba o bumababa. Diba? Yung final income, yung resulta mismo. Eh, hindi lang yan. Ano pa ba ang definition yan? The money multiplier is a phenomenon of creating money in the economy. In the form of credit creation, the money is created in the market based on the fractional reserves banking system. It is also sometimes called monetary multiplier or credit multiplier. Diba? Sabi nga, it's a phenomenon creating money in the economy in the form of credit creation. Diba? Pero, mas kukunin pa natin, titignan pa natin, marami pa tayong definition dyan, diba? So, isa pa. The economists and bankers often look at a multiplier effect from the perspective of banking and money supply. This multiplier is called the money supply multiplier or just the money multiplier. Again, di ba? Double siya. Sabi nga, from the banking and economists. Next pa natin. The money multiplier involves the reserves requirement set by the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, and it varies based on the total amount of liabilities held by a particular depository institution. Diba? Yung money multiplier niya, yung money supply multiplier, ayan, involves na dito yung reserve requirement natin, diba? Na kung saan, sineset din ng ating Board of Governors. Ayan, o yung kuha natin, sa kuha na ng BSP, diba? Pero itong kundi na to, 'di ba? Galing na din in Google, no? Na kung saan nakakakuha na din tayo from the other country ng mga meaning. So, medyo siya. Tawag ito, sabi nga dito, Federal Reserve System. Pero dito sa atin, syempre, titingnan natin kung nga ba. Pero based on my research, no, ginagamit din natin dito sa Pilipinas ang money supply multiplier effect. 'Di ba? And meron silang category mamaya. Mamaya sasabihin natin kung ano yung mga category dito. Okay. Ito na nga. Sa US ito, in disclaimer ko na, US itong naging sample from US. Pero ina-apply din natin siya dito sa ating bansa, sa Pilipinas. In general, there are multiple levels of money supply across the entire economy. The most familiar ones to the general public are the first level. The M1 refers to all of the physical currency in circulation within an economy. Diba? M1, ayan, yung buong physical lang, yung nakahawakan lang natin na nag-circulate na pera. Diba? Yan lang. The next level, called M2. I-add mo ngayon to. Adds the balances of the short-term deposits accounts for a summation. Diba? Idagdag mo siya para tignan pa natin. Kumbaga may M1 tayo, may M2 tayo. 'Di ba? Kaya lang yung paggawa ng money supply multiplier effect. Tinitignan lang natin kung nagiging pa ba siya. Nagiging maganda ba yung pera natin, 'di ba? Yung kamusta na ba yung umiikot na pera natin dito sa ating bansa. Ito yung mostly ginagamit ng mga ekonomista. Ayan, kasi alam naman natin, dito tayo tumitingin ng kung kamusta na nga ba ang ekonomiya natin. Tayo ngayon, tanawin natin yung sarili natin, i-research natin, kamusta na nga ba ang ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. Alam naman natin na bumabagsak ang ekonomiya natin, di ba? Kaya nga ngayon, hinihikayat natin ang lahat na bumoto para tignan natin kung tataas nga ba or mas magiging maganda nga ba ang ekonomiya natin. Sana maging maganda, di ba? Nasa developing countries tayo, 'di ba? Sana maging developed na din. Pero kailan kaya 'yon? 'Di ba? Pag pumuti na ba yung uwak? Ayan, mga ganung term natin, 'di ba? So, next, the money supply multiplier effect can be seen in a country's banking system. An increase in banking lending should translate to an expansion of country's money supply. So, the money supply multiplier effect nga daw, di ba? Nakikita din ito sa ating country's banking system. Sa central bank. Ayan, dyan natin makikita ito. An increase in bank lending should be translated to an expansion of the country's money supply. Di ba? Yung mga nalilend, ayan, dapat na doon siya sa expansion of the country's money supply. Di ba? Siyempre, kasi pag nang naman tayo, di ba? Magiging money supply din natin siya. Umiikot na din siya sa atin. Nagre-regulate na din yan, di ba? Next, the size of the multipliers depends on the percentage of deposits that banks are required to hold as reserves. When the reserve requirement decreases, the money supply reserve multiplier increases and vice versa. Medyo nakakalito. Himayin natin, no? Sabi nga natin, himayin natin, tingnan natin. Sabi, the size of the multiplier depends on the percentage of deposits that banks are required to hold as reserves. Ayan, ang multiplier effect, ang multiplier ay nakadepende, no, sa porsyento na deposit or yung hawak ng bangko as a reserve siya, di ba? And when the reserves requirement bumaba daw, decrease the money supply, no? The money supply reserve multipliers effect. Gets nyo na ba? Parang hindi. Medyo nakakalito. Sabi, yung reserve requirement natin kapag bumaba, tataas naman ang money supply reserve multiplier natin. And vice versa to. Kapag tumaas ang reserve requirement mo, no? Syempre, bababa yung supply reserve multiplier natin. Magdi-decrease naman siya. So, vice versa nga lang daw. Next natin. Most economists view the money multiplier in terms of reserve dollars, and that is what the money multiplier formula is based on. Theoretically, this leads to a money or supply reserves multiplier formula of, tingnan natin, MSRM is equal to 1 over RRR. So, ano nga ba to? Paano ba to? Ano ba yung MSRM na sinasabi mo, team? Ano ba yung RRR na sinasabi mo, team? Diba? The MSRM is the money supply reserve multiplier. While the RRR, no, it's reserves requirement ratio. Doon naman siya. Gano'n naman yung nagiging ikot ng pag-multiply effect natin. So, yun lamang ang aking report sa araw na to. At back to you, Kumaring Angelica. Kap ko na kap.
Ayun. Thanks, Timothy. We will now proceed to our next reporter.
Reporter Amela M. Legaspi. Ang title ng aking report, Effect of Interest Rate in Money Supply. How does an increase in money supply affect the pace of inflation and interest rate? Into the quantity theory of money, a growing money supply increase inflation, thus low interest rate tend to the result in more inflation. High interest rate to tend to lower inflation. Pag nag-increase ang inflation, lumalaki ang money supply. Ang low interest rate ay may posible resulta ng pagdami ng inflation at ang high interest rate naman ay may posible ding bumaba ang inflation. As an increase in money supply. Fed can increase the money supply by lowering the reverse requirement for banks, which allow them to lend more money. Conversely, by raising the bank reserve requirement, the Fed can decrease the size of money supply. Ang mga bangko ay tumutulong ito sa pagkontrol sa pera. May mga requirements ito sa mga gusto mangutang. Ang bangko ay pinipili nila ang mababang liquidity ratio. Nangangahulugan ito ang bangko ang pairam na mas malaking bahagi ng kanilang pondo. What happened to the interest rate if the money demand decrease or decrease? The money supply remain unchanged. The Fed reverse adjust the supply of money in economy. The nominal interest rate change as a result. When the Fed increase the money supply, there are supplies of money at the interest rate. Therefore, the interest rate must increase to disable some people from holding money. Ang demand ng pera ay nasasangkot na istawak ng mga financial assets. Ang money supply ay kabuuan ng mga monetary assets sa available sa ekonomiya. Ang nominal interest rate ay may posible tumaas at sumaba dahil sa pabago-bagong interest rate. Happen to interest rate if the money supply increase. All else being equal, a largest money supply, lower interest rate, making it less expensive for the consumer to borrow. Conversely, small money supply tend to raise market interest rate, making it pricey for consumer to take out a loan. Market interest rate tumutukoy ng isang kondisyon kung saan ang presyo ng merkado ay bumababa ito ng halaga. Ang kalakal at serbisyo na inaanap ng mga namili ay katumbas na mahalaga ng mga produkto at serbisyo. ginagawa ang pagbebenta kung saan balanse ang interest rate at money supply. What happened the interest rate when the money decreased was when the demand curve shifted to the left. It showed a decrease in the demand for the money. The nominal interest rate declines and there is a greater interest advantage in all the other assets instead of the money. Money demand ay resulta ng trade-off pagitan ng liquidity advantage, ang paglawak ng pera at interest advantage. Nagkahawak ito ng iba pang asset. Ang pangangailangan para sa pera tumutukoy kung paano dapat hawakan ng isang tao, at ang demand curve ay lumapit sa kanan at tumaas. Ang demand para sa pera ay tumataas. Ang individual ay mas malamang na humawak sa pera. Ang nominal interest rate ay tinatanggihan nito dahil malaki ang interest. Effects of low interest rate up on economy. The Fed lower interest rate in order to make economics grow, as lower financial costs can encourage borrowing and interest investment. However, when rates too low, they can force excessive growth and consequently reduce purchasing power, undermining and sustainability the economic expansion. Kapag mababa ang interest rates, mas marami manghihirap at mag-i-invest dahil masyado ito mababa. Maaari sila mag-udyok na paglago ng inflation at paglawak ng ekonomiya.
I am back again, and this time I am the reporter, and my report is about the effect of central banks' money operations in money supply. How central banks control the supply of money. If a nation's economy were a human body, then its heart would be the central bank. And just as the heart works to pump life, giving blood throughout the body, the central bank pumps money into the economy to keep it healthy and growing. Sometimes economies need less money and sometimes they need more. Kung yung ekonomiya daw ay ang katawan, ang central bank naman ang puso nito. Nagpapump siya ng blood, which is ang pera, para manatiling healthy and growing ang ekonomiya. Minsan kailangan ng kakaunting pera at minsan kailangan ng maraming pera. Pero sa ating bansa, madalas na kailangan ng maraming pera. How central banks can increase or decrease money supply. Central banks use several different methods to increase or decrease the amount of money in the banking system. These actions are referred to as monetary policy. Ano nga ba ang monetary policy? Monetary policy is the regulation of the amount of money available in an economy as well as the channels through which new money is supplied. A central bank's goal in managing the money supply is to influence macroeconomic factors such as inflation, consumption rate, economic growth, and overall liquidity. Ang goal ng central bank ay ma-manage ang money supply sa inflation, consumption rate, economic growth, and overall liquidity. A central bank may, in addition to changing the interest rate, buy or sell government bonds, regulate foreign exchange or forex rates, and change the amount of cash that banks are required to keep as reserves. Meron tayong dalawang types of monetary policies, which is the expansionary monetary policy and contractionary monetary policy. First is expansionary monetary policy. If a country is experiencing high unemployment as a result of a slowdown or recession, the monetary authority can pursue an expansionary policy aimed at boosting economic growth and expanding economic activity. The monetary authority frequently lowers interest rates as part of expansionary policy in order to encourage spending and make saving unappealing. So, meron akong naisip na example sa expansionary policy. From the word expansionary, which is expand o pagpapalawak, I have an example. Isipin natin na sobrang daming pera ng ating money supply. Ang mga pera na yan ay tinapay sa sindis na sobrang binabaan yung presyo para mabenta. Para mabenta na kasi sayang naman. Yun yung mga pautang sa bangko. Binababaan nila yung interest rates para maraming umutang. Para yung mga mauutang nilang mga pera is may spend nila. Ayun. So, isipin natin sa tinapay na yan, malapit na siyang ma-expired. Ano lang to, parang senaryo lang. Dahil malapit na siyang ma-expired, at kinain ni Aling Marites, sumakit yung tiyan niya. At dahil sumakit yung tiyan niya, kailangan niya ng doktor. Tapos, masama yung pakiramdam niya, kaya hindi siya makakaluto, kaya kailangan niya ng chef. So, yung mga doktor at chef na hinar niya is an example of growth sa employment rate. Kaya kapag sobrang daming pera sa money supply, sobrang dami yung ganap sa ating bansa. Nagagamit ng nagagamit, umiikot ng umiikot yung pera. Masagana ang bansa. At masaya din si Aling Marites. Expansionary monetary policy, increased market money supply, aims to boost investment and consumer spending. Lower interest rates allow businesses and individuals to obtain loans or on more favorable terms. And ang susunod naman is contractionary monetary policy. A contractionary monetary policy raises interest rates to slow the growth of the money supply and bring inflation down. This can slow economic growth and even increase unemployment, but it is frequently regarded as necessary to cool the economy and keep prices in check. So, ang example ko naman dito sa contractionary, ang contractionary kasi is parang pagtitipid at pagiging kuripot. Ang example ko naman dito ay kabaliktaran nung una. Sobrang minahalan ang pagpapautang dahil gipit na tayo dito. Kaya imbes na gumagastos si Aling Marites, mag-iipon na lang siya. Imbes na magpa-doktor, biogesic na lang, tapos ingat. Imbes na mag-hire ng chef, dela-delata na lang. Dahil walang masyadong ganap, walang masyadong pera, lahat kuripot. Dito napapasok ang prices in check. Dahil kailangan nilang mabalik yung mga presyo dahil nga sa inflation, at naging kuripot ang lahat dahil wala nang masyadong pera, manggigigil ngayon yung mga seller. Doon, magse-sale at discounted ang mga paninda. Si Natoy ginawa na lang na 5 piso lahat ng klase sa mga paninda niya para bumalik ang price stability at magkaroon na ulit ng ganap sa bansa. Contractionary monetary policy with inflation in the double digits in the early 1980s, the Fed raised its benchmark interest rate to a record 20%, despite the fact that the high rates caused a recession. They were able to return inflation to the desired range of 3% to 4% over the next few years. Ito naman ang central bank. Central banks are responsible for overseeing a country's or group of countries' monetary system. as well as a variety of other responsibilities ranging from monetary policy oversight to implementing specific goals such as currency stability, low inflation, and full employment. The central bank's role has grown in importance over the last century. The central bank should be the regulator and authority in the banking and monetary systems to ensure the stability of a country's currency. Thank you for listening. That's my report, and we will now proceed to the last reporter.
Good day, I am Princess Dayan Bulatao, the last reporter of our group, and I am reporting the effect of increasing and decreasing reserves in money supply under the Part 2 monetary policy. So there's a question here that what happened if the Federal Reserves decrease the reserve ratio? So ano bang mangyayari kapag yung Federal Reserve is binaba yung reserve ratio nila? So first, what is reserve ratio is? So the reserve ratio is the amount of reserves or cash deposit that a bank must hold on to and not lend out. So yung reserve ratio, ito yung cash deposit ng bangko na hindi niya pwedeng ilabas or ipautang sa mga consumer and businesses. So the greater the reserve requirements, the less the money that a bank can potentially lend. But this excess cash also staves off a banking failure and shores up its balance sheet. Still, when the reserve ratio increases, it is considered contractionary monetary policy, and when it decreases, it is considered as expansionary. So, tandaan natin na kapag daw yung reserve ratio ng bangko is tumaas, it is under contractionary, and kapag naman ang reserve ratio ng bangko is bumaba, it is under expansionary. So, the reserve ratio is calculated as reserve ratio is equal to reserve requirements in dollar times deposits in dollar. So, later meron akong example para mas clear sa atin lahat. And when the Federal Reserve decreases the reserve ratio, it lowers the amount of cash that banks are required to hold in reserve. So, allowing them to make more loans to consumer and business. This increases the nation's money supply and expand the economy. But increased spending activity can also work to increase inflation. So, ayan. I have example here. Sabi dito, assume the Federal Reserve determine the reserve ratio to be 11%. So, yung mag-assume daw tayo na yung reserve ratio ng bangko is 11%. Yung 11% na yun is hindi dapat lumabas or hindi dapat mapautang ng bangko. Sabi niya, this means if a bank has deposit of $1 billion, it is required to have the $110 million on reserve. So, yun. Yung, di ba may $1 billion ang bangko, and yung dapat na reserve ratio niya is 11%, which is the $110 million na hindi dapat ipautang sa mga consumer and businesses. Dapat matira yon sa bangko. And how do we get that 110 million reserve ratio? Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina na paano calculate yung reserve ratio is equal to requirements in dollar times deposit in dollar. So, yan. 1 billion, yun yung reserve requirements. 1 billion times 0.11, which is the yung reserve ratio is equal to $110 million. And could therefore make loans totaling $890 million. So, yung $890 million, yun daw yung pwedeng i-lend out ng bangko. So, yung 110, may iwan sa bangko, hindi pwedeng ipautang. And Now assume the central bank wants to make its monetary policy somewhat more expansionary and encourage more lending to spur economy activity. To do so, it lowers the reserve ratio to from 11% kanina, bababa niya ng 10%. Now the bank is with 1 billion in deposit is required to save $100 million na lang, which is kanina is $110 million, and can lend $900 million as opposed to $890 million. So bakit binaba yung reserve ratio dito? So for your information lang na kapag kasi under siya kapag yung sinabing expansionary, parang save niya yung pagbaba ng or pagkalugi ng isang bangko. Kaya bababaan niya yung reserve ratio para maipautang pa yung, di ba kanina meron 110, tapos biglang binaba from 11% to 10%, naging 100 million na lang. So binaba niya reserve ratio para magkaroon siya ng marami pang pautang para merong pumasok pa sa bangko and para madagdagan yung deposit do sa bangko and hindi siya tuluyan mabankrupt yung bangko na yon and masave yung pagbagsak niya. So yon. The next one question here is, what happened if the Federal Reserve increased the reserve ratio? So, ano naman daw yung mangyayari kapag yung Federal Reserve increases the reserve ratio? So, generally, held responsible for controlling information and managing both short-term and long-term interest rate. They make this decision to strengthen the economy. And control the money supply is an important tool they use. So, the Federal can also alter short-term interest rate by lowering or raising, it depends sa bangko, the discount rate that banks pay on short-term loans from the Federal. So, yon. Again, kapag yung Federal Reserve is tinaas niya yung reserve ratio niya, it is under the contractionary. So, kapag kasi contractionary naman, ibig sabihin, tinataasan niya yung reserve requirements para malesen yung loan na pwedeng i-loan ng mga consumer and businesses. Kasi, marami ng deposit yung bangko. And para mapigilan yun, tinataasan nila yung reserve requirements ng bangko. And syempre, 'di ba yung mga tao kapag mas maraming requirements, mas hassle sa kanila and tinatamad na silang mag-apply for loan. And yun yung technique ng contractionary para malesen yung pag-deposit ng pera sa bangko. Ayan. And for my conclusion, by lowering the reserve requirements, banks are able to loan more money, which increases the overall supply of money in the economy. Well, sabi ko nga, kapag binaba nila yung reserve requirements, syempre maraming may inganyo na mag-loan sa mga bangko, ganon. And yung bangko is kikita ng interest galing dun sa kikita yung bangko galing dun sa interest na ipapautang nila. So, conversely, by raising the bank's reserve requirements, the Fed is able to decrease the size of money supply. So, yun naman yung sa contractionary. Kapag tinaas nila yung reserve requirements ng bangko, mas bababa yung size of money supply na papasok sa bangko. So, yun lang yung report ko and sana nagets nyo and natuto ang lahat. Bye-bye!